The seaplanes of Lake Union are an icon, a signature of the lake, part of a long tradition of seemingly incompatible uses of this urban lake. To mix the seaplanes and the sailboats and the kayaks and the workboats, the swimmers, all in together in a very small space of water. Most people think this just can't happen, but it's happened since 1914 was the first seaplane on the lake, when Silas Christopherson was hired to fly exhibition flights over the city. The first time a Seattle mayor went up in an aircraft at all was off Lake Union when Hiram Gill flew in 1914. In 1916, Bill Boeing built a hangar, a 3-bay hangar for $10,000 at the base of Roanoke. He built it for pilot training to prepare for World War I, as it was a very patriotic thing to do, and all over the country, gentlemen got together and built these clubs. Being Seattle, it had to be water-based. He very quickly took it over for his fledgling business, which was just starting up. He used it for R&D, and he used it for some significant first flights. The first flight, of course, of his first aircraft, the B&W. And Boeing's first passenger flights came off of Lake Union, and we don't remember, a lot of us, that Boeing actually was an airline for quite some number of years, and it mutated into United Airlines. So if you wanted to stretch it a long way, you could say United Airlines started at the foot of Roanoke. It also was where they flew the first international airmail. If you get a Boeing stock certificate, you'll see the picture on that certificate will be Bill Boeing and Eddie Hubbard on Lake Union after their 1919 international airmail flight holding a mail bag. That kind of shows you how significant Lake Union is to the origins of the Boeing company. Eddie Hubbard won the airmail contract from here to Victoria. His importance to us is because every day he would fly off the lake and fly up north to Victoria, and people would see tangibly the future, their future in aviation. You wouldn't think that there's that much mail between here and Victoria that would justify a flight every day. They really wanted to fly from Victoria to Seattle because they wanted to get the manifests off the ships from the Asian trade, so the docks would have a day's warning what's coming into port. This was the Prohibition period, and there are many rumors that the B-1 was flying alcohol between Victoria and Seattle, but landing somewhere up north, offloading the alcohol and continuing the flight. Bill Boeing was not terribly respective of the Prohibition laws. And the B-1 still exists. The B-1 is over at the Museum of History and Industry. That it survived all these years is a phenomenal artifact for us all. In the 1930s, the new market was to have a seaplane route from Seattle to Alaska. And what happened is that it wasn't financially worthwhile, but the people who flew the route recognized the great bonanza up in Alaska, and they all stayed up in Alaska. And they became the generation of legendary bush pilots of Alaska. The Boeing Hangar was valuable to seaplanes on Lake Union because it kept them here through the 1930s when Lana Kurtzer came aboard. And Lana Kurtzer in the mid-1930s took a maintenance dock that was on the central waterfront, towed it around through the locks, brought it here, and started doing flight training and charter flights from the south end of the lake. And he purchased a link trainer. And a link trainer is what they used to train pilots during the war. Because he did that, he was set up for the civilian pilot training program, which was a precursor to World War II. And Lana Kurtzer trained thousands of pilots on Lake Union. After World War II, the GI Bill paid for returning veterans' educations. A lot of them had extra money over, and they said, well, why not I just spend government money on flight training? And a whole bunch of veterans had a great old time playing on the lake, flying. Our economy was moving more to a recreational economy. So did the seaplane marketplace, flying to the San Juans, flying to Canada. So companies were fighting for this marketplace. In the 80s, there were 5 operators on the lake, and Kenmore did win the lake eventually. Kenmore Air is the preeminent international restorer of the Beaver de Havilland, which you hear out there, that low rumble radial engine. The last one was built in 1967. These airplanes are older than pretty much all of their pilots, but they are better maintained airplanes than you will find anywhere in this country in any form of aviation. I'm guessing that Lake Union is the busiest seaplane base as far as number of takeoffs in the United States on any given summer's day, and it's been a preeminent seaplane base for the country, if not the whole hemisphere, since 1916. Most people would look at this on the face and say this is not compatible, but somehow it is. And I can tell you, to be out in a canoe out on the lake with the seaplane taking off and water from the pontoons coming down on top of you, it's exhilarating. It is a wonderful experience, and I will go out on the lake just to have that happen, knowing that both the seaplane operator and canoeist are safe.